It's a massive week of new releases with too many games to cover, so I'm a little bit more selective and have some fresh picks, so let's begin with Lone Fungus Melody of Spores, theoretically Lone Fungus 2, in which you once again play as Green Cap in this Mushroomvania. Traverse an interconnected map to unite the mushroom tribes and confront the sinister spirit beast using fluid 8-directional whip combat with sub-weapons, citing Celeste, Hollow Knight, and perhaps even Castlevania as inspirations. As compared to the first game, the pixel art is in a slightly different style with smaller sprites and a more zoomed out camera, but retains the intense combat and platforming and should be one of the better Metroidvanias of the year. We also have the release of the long-in-development Dead Static Drive, a surreal survival horror road trip action game where you take the wheel of a battered car, driving it through the American heartland in the 1980s and stumble into something far older, stranger, and darker than ever expected. This has been dubbed Grand Theft Cthulhu, mixing driving and action along with evading the police, where their Steam page was first created in 2019, so at this point I'm just curious about what this game actually is. This video is brought to you by Kentum, a self-styled 2D craftervania taking place in the year 10,000, where a clone named Kent awakens after a 7,000-year nap and must rebuild civilization from the ground up, together with his robotic companion Orb. Explore exotic locales ranging from jungles to ruins, scanning and classifying flora, fauna, and minerals, then harvest raw materials like wood, bone, and scrap, where knowledge is your most powerful survival tool. Use these as the building blocks for complex production chains, crafting, farming, and automating your way up from primitive tools to complex automated factories that continue to produce even while you're out exploring. Interestingly, this plays like a side-scrolling platformer, being very familiar in terms of controls, but with survival elements since you need to hunt and eat food to stay alive. Use traversal options like your hoverboard, grappling hook, or glider to efficiently traverse terrain, exploring and uncovering the secrets of the world. As such, it's one part Terraria and one part Factorial, with Metroidvania influence in progression and accessing new areas, looking to have a compelling gameplay loop. So if interested, try the newly updated demo, wishlist the game and buy it on 6 November, available on Steam, PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, with a Nintendo Switch version to release later. Biped 2 marks the cheerful return of one of the most beloved co-op puzzle adventure games around, once again letting you and your friends control adorable bipedal robots on a quest packed with teamwork and charm. This sequel expands the concept massively, taking you to a colourful alien planet filled with inventive puzzles, dynamic movement challenges, and environments that constantly shift under your feet. Each leg of your robot is individually controlled, meaning coordination and rhythm are key. 2-player co-op in the first game was great, with the sequel expanding upon that with a new 4-player quad squad mode, where pairs can stack atop each other to form a makeshift multi-limbed robot, leading to moments of hilarity as everyone tries to stay in sync. The tone is light and playful, with vibrant visuals and expressive animations, and looks perfect for friends who want a break from competitive games and just want to have fun. Tavern Keeper comes to us from the creators of Game Dev Tycoon and carries that same charm for systems-driven simulation into an entirely new setting of a high fantasy world of ale, adventurers, and opportunity. It's a whimsical tavern management tycoon game where you take ownership of a humble inn and grow it into a bustling establishment brimming with life. Every detail is under your control, from hiring staff and furnishing rooms to crafting menus and decorating the space with an impressive sandbox-style building system. You'll buy and process raw ingredients, brew drinks, and cook meals to serve an ever-rotating crowd of adventurers, travelers, and locals. Story-driven events, narrated by a lively storyteller, injects humor and decision-making into the mix, while unlocking new room types, decor, and staff roles. Steadily transforms your operations from a roadside bar into a sprawling inn, looking to be a mix of cozy creativity and satisfying management. My newsletter to get a weekly dose of what's hot, along with some news and of course, weekly game giveaways, so if interested, link is in the description below. Bloodgrounds is a turn-based tactical RPG that layers gritty gladiatorial combat with roguelite and management systems, putting you in the role of a former gladiator turned wealthy patron on a quest for vengeance. You lead a roster of fighters through grid-based arena battles where positioning, class synergy, and timing are everything. Each encounter unfolds like a deadly chess match as you combine class abilities, trigger traps, and channel divine powers to outmaneuver and annihilate opponents, with a distinct Darkest Dungeon vibe in how you manage your roster, since fighters permanently die if you lose them in battle. You can spare defeated enemies to recruit them, but risk the ire of the bloodthirsty crowd. There is a meta progression layer in the city to build and develop, unlocking more of the systems for various upgrades, where every choice feeds into your ultimate goal of toppling the tyrannical emperor responsible for your father's death. It's a world steeped in blood and politics, with an awesome visual style, and could be one of the best tactics titles of the year. Other games begin with 7 Days Blood Moons, a dramatic 4v1 survival action game as 4 survivors team up to scavenge, fortify, and survive, while a single zombie master commands the horde in a chaotic struggle for dominance, having both asymmetric 4v1 PvP mode or PvE, where 4 players take on the AI zombie master. Survivors gather materials, build defenses, and hunt for resources under the creeping threat of an encroaching Blood Moon Night, while the zombie master seizes control of the zombies, possessing minions and unleashing havoc to attempt to stop them. Where victory means the elimination of the other side, its survival crafting game meets Call of Duty Zombies, having a cool cel-shaded Borderlands-ish look, with the developer of 7 Days to Die publishing this and being involved in the game, and has the potential to be huge. I don't know if you would consider this to be a mascot horror title, but Amanda the Adventurer 3 is the chilling conclusion to the series, placing you once more in Riley's shoes, and together with Wooly the Sheep, they venture into the ominous Hemlin facility to uncover the final secrets of Amanda the Adventurer, a children's TV show with a dark secret to hide. You are exploring in first person, solving escape room style puzzles, with the all-important VHS tapes of the show hiding clues as well. Use these to solve the puzzles and progress forward, where I've generally seen a good reception to this series, but you will need to start from the first game. A good-looking title with a horrible title for SEO is Brew, a third-person action roguelite where you enroll at the Alchemy Academy and have to ascend its tower, having fast-paced combat but adds in potion crafting mechanics. You gather ingredients during battle, brew potions mid-fight to buff yourself, throw concoctions to disrupt enemies, or load them into your weapon to radically change its behavior. Each weapon supports multiple potion integrations, so you can mix and match modifiers with new potion recipes, badges, and more as the progression mechanics during a run. There is meta progression, taking a page out of the Book of Hades, as you get to know your classmates and professors, giving them gifts to deepen your friendships, and might even be able to find love. I think that the 3D platforming action looks cool with an awesome theme, so here's hoping that this does not go under the radar. A wonderful looking farming monster tamer is Cosmic Coop, where you crash land on a strange planet and have to go about rebuilding your life with nothing but a rickety farmhouse and a handful of clues. On your alien homestead, you plant crops, craft items, customize your character's look, and select decorations, attracting whimsical critterlings in the process, each with a favourite treat and their own unique quirks which you need to learn if you want to coax them into staying on your farm. Yes, indeed, this is a Viva Pinata-like, where it still shocks me to this day that Microsoft has not done anything with the IP, so maybe the source code got lost or something, but leave it to indie developers to save the day once again. I love the pixel art look, and is offering something different as compared to games like Stardew Valley and Slime Rancher, with its inspiration being a legendary game, which makes this the hidden gem of the week. Cursemark comes to us from the developer of Into the Necrovale and continues their style of detailed pixel art and deep replayable game design, with this action exploration roguelite being set in the haunted expanse of the Unknown Lands, a dark fantasy world teeming with cursed ruins and restless spirits. You wield both weapons and magic, swapping between fast melee and devastating spell casting as you carve a path through enemies, demanding quick reactions and careful positioning. The spell system is inventive, since you can slot runes into spells to alter their behavior, fusing elemental effects in surprising ways, like causing fireballs to fire off ice spears. Each run gives you the opportunity to reveal hidden passages, relics, shortcuts, and new areas as the world reacts to your choices, with the stunning pixel art making this easy on the eyes. We also have the release of Dark Quest IV, a turn-based roguelite strategy RPG that kind of feels like a tabletop RPG similar to the first 3 games in the series, but looks to expand on every system, making it bigger and better. Lead a party of heroes venturing through procedurally generated dungeons filled with monsters and traps, having to make moral choices at critical points, all while under the watchful narration of an omniscient dungeon master. Each expedition lets you roll dice for actions, move across grid-based maps, and use card-based abilities to attack, defend, or trigger powerful effects, while managing limited resources that can make or break a run. There's meta progression between runs as you upgrade your heroes at the hero camp, having some good dark fantasy art and vibes, and does kind of feel like D&D. One of the big successes of the most recent Steam Next Festival is Desktop Defender, a corner-of-screen idle game variant on the bottom-of-screen idle game, where this is not a farm or a cafe, but instead a tower defense title where your lone tower sits in the center of the screen, automatically shooting at incoming waves of enemies while you browse the internet, work, or play a game. Watch numbers go up and enemies explode as the tower fends off threats, occasionally interacting by purchasing upgrades, equipping loot, and selecting new weapons and bonuses to amplify your damage and survivability. There's an ascension system like in more traditional idle games, which resets the run in exchange for a special currency that unlocks cross-run boosts and permanent enhancements, letting you exponentially increase in power. The minimalist design, rooted in pixel art and 2D top-down visuals, are clean and well-made, looking like the next big hit in the idle game space. You have literally signed a deal with the devil in Devil Jam, which then sees you dragged into hell, having to perform the gig of your afterlife. In this bullet heaven action roguelite, wield possessed instruments which play themselves on the beat, having to master the timing of when the attacks fire off in order to maximize damage. Move and dodge with your character, as is bullet heaven tradition, but does have a 12-slot inventory system for you to craft your build, where these abilities and synergies fire off in sequence, so you need to plan ahead. As such, while it is a bullet heaven title at its core, it's something different with the upgrades, which makes it of note, with a rocking theme as well, so maybe give this a try. Dinocop has a quirky setup where dinosaurs have been resurrected and coexist uneasily with humans, but none of them signed up to be law enforcement, so the humans created you, Dinocop, to patrol the world where dino rights, politics, and crime collide. You explore a grand venue named the Cretaceous Hotel, where a human meat mystery sits at the center of a bigger question about your role between species. Mechanically, you navigate by walking, talking, sneaking, and examining scenes with tools, using your literal nose and a magnifying glass to uncover these points of interest. You interview characters, inspect objects, and use a detailed investigation node map with a timetable to structure your detective work and to figure out the identity of the culprit. There are additional mechanics like disguises to go undercover, but generally leans on the more humorous end of things, mixing in detective tropes in this light-hearted but thought-provoking adventure. A very weird looking and curious roguelite dice builder is Dog Witch, where you're using enchanted dice to unleash powerful spells in order to take out your enemies. You roll dice to fuel your cards, summon minions, activate relics, and chain combos in fast-paced runs, mixing in over 150 unique artifacts plus corrupted versions, letting you create outrageous synergies, summon allies like skeleton sidekicks or laser ponies to help during fights against bizarre foes ranging from vending machines to gun-wielding Russian dolls. Runs are quick and varied, letting you experiment with builds and hats which alter your strategy. As such, it's weird and absurd, which is part of the charm, where I'm impressed by the creativity and sheer insanity of it all, having previewed well so far and will be for fans of games like Slay the Spire and Dicey Dungeons. Eclipse Breaker has this sick-looking throwback look where you play as Ember, a hero out of time in this strategic action roguelite, where quick reflexes matter just as much as your build. Engage in real-time battles that require dodging, parrying, blocking, and landing strikes at just the right moment, while juggling skill cooldowns and chaining together divine powers to take out your enemies. Every arena you enter shifts dynamically as you explore procedurally generated dungeons ruled by the elemental gods, then assemble new loadouts from the abilities you pick up during each run. Select from a roster of companion spirits, the lingering souls of Ember's former friends, each providing powerful abilities but also acts as a foil for your character to talk to, which fleshes her out. There appears to be an extensive Path of Exile style skill tree as well, looking endlessly replayable. Also, the story is kind of meta, since you are picking this game up after 25 years, returning to your old save file, where Ember was supposed to defeat the rogue sun goddess, but since you did not finish the game, the world remains enshrouded in darkness, so help the character redeem herself in the eyes of the others, looking pretty cool and is very indie games. A 3D rage game of interest is egging on, who might unfortunately be getting its lunch eaten, but more on that later. You play as a fragile egg in this precision platformer where every wobble, roll and jump matters as you climb away from the henhouse into environments like a shop, a factory and other perilous vertical gauntlets. Master the egg physics as you roll along, where the tip of the egg is harder and will allow you to leap higher, and of course, falling too far will cause you to crack and break. There are cosmetic unlocks for the shell, as well as a leaderboard for speedrunners, looking equal parts frustrating and challenging and might be for a certain kind of gamer. The bad news is that over the weekend, I saw developer Terry Kavanagh of VVVVV and Super Hexagon fame releasing a game called Egg for free on itch.io, which is playable in browser, looking similar, but perhaps more akin to Jump King, so maybe bad luck, or maybe that might just have sparked an even greater interest in egg-based games. The next entry in the co-op horror slash friend slop genre is Fish Stick Protocol, a chaotic extraction game where up to 8 players dive into bizarre, procedurally generated dimensions to grab artifacts and to make it back alive. You run, shoot, dodge and work together across a shifting zone where the sheer absurdity of the procedural generation might make or break this game. The developers mention hostile mushroom forests and surreal rainbow-coloured realms where you do have to collect and bring back artifacts to sell, using money to purchase upgrades for your base, which unlocks more of the systems. These include new machines and display shelves to show off your prized possessions, along with cosmetic upgrades for clouds, looking kind of wacky and unpredictable and is ripe for fun with friends. Into Evil bills itself as Hotline Miami meets Dark Souls, and I think I agree, being a top-down action roguelite with an occult setting, throwing you into dungeons filled with grotesque demons, ritual chambers, blood and viscera. Combat is fast, violent and skill-based, as you choose between weapons like massive great swords, miniguns or sorcery to fight your way through swarms of enemies, using tight parries and well-timed blocks to survive the onslaught. Every fight is a test of your reaction and skill, where stealing your nerves and being precise with counters will be necessary, since a single mistake can cost you your entire run. You're descending down the inverted tower, a fascinating location in itself, with more evil things the deeper you go, with roguelite replayability making each attempt feel different. Legends of Dragaea Idle Dungeons is a first-person idle dungeon crawler set in the world of Dragaea, where you assemble a party of heroes, venture into mysterious dungeons, and grow your adventurous guild to achieve legendary fame. Explore a wide range of dungeons, from shadowy caves to enchanted labyrinths, taking on quests, recruiting heroes from 6 distinct races, each offering unique strengths, and using complementary abilities to defeat all monsters. Instead of fixed classes, the game features a flexible skill system, allowing every hero to mix and match from 22 combat and utility skills alongside over 25 special abilities, with more than 200 pieces of gear to find, enhance and combine. Building the perfect team then becomes a satisfying balancing act of stats and synergies. Outside of combat, the guild management layer lets you expand your base, unlock new facilities and upgrade the surrounding town with features like improved shops, bigger rosters, and the ability to send out expeditions. The pixel art may appear simple at first, but it beautifully captures the nostalgic tone of classic fantasy adventure, offering a familiar yet mechanically rich experience for dungeon crawler fans. On paper, one of the most anticipated games of the week is Long Drive North Co-op RV Simulator, where the timing might not be the best for this release, considering the recent release and immense success of RV There Yet, but this appears to be more self-serious and is going in the survival game direction, looking kind of like The Long Dark. You and your crew have to drive an old RV through a vast post-disaster American wilderness, managing fuel, repairs, hunger, thirst and sleep, while scavenging for parts, hunting game and cooking meals. You drive, stop at derelict locations to scavenge and gather resources, and can even dismantle abandoned vehicles for components to upgrade your RV's engine, chassis, and interior so you can explore further and survive longer. The post-apocalypse here is interesting since there are no zombies or monsters, but is more of a quiet, haunting sandbox with the ever-present danger of Mother Nature instead. I'm not sure what the endgame is, if it is just survive for as long as possible or if you're going somewhere, but do note that this will be an early access release, as survival games tend to be, so let's see how this shapes up. Master Lemon: The Quest for Iceland is a heartfelt narrative puzzle adventure game created as a tribute to a friend who passed away while chasing his dreams in Iceland. You play as Lemon, journeying through a chain of mysterious islands where a memory-devouring plague threatens the very fabric of language itself. The puzzles are built around languages, asking you to decipher, translate, and rediscover forgotten words to literally rebuild parts of the world. Every dialogue and interaction comes with meaning, and understanding the characters and hearing their stories will allow you to unlock new areas and to restore what's been lost. It's a meditative experience about friendship, grief, and the shared humanity woven through language, wrapped in gentle music, poetic writing, and a tone that feels both personal and universal. I was pleasantly surprised when Nature landed in my mailbox, since this is a digital adaptation of a tabletop board game, itself being the sequel to Evolution, which I remember playing on Steam many years ago. It looks similar, but there are distinct differences between Nature and Evolution, mainly to do with how this is more beginner friendly and lets you dig yourself out of a hole in the early game instead of being doomed. It's a strategy card game of survival and adaptation as you guide and evolve a species through changing conditions, choosing if they are herbivores or carnivores, managing competition for food, and avoiding predators. The core mechanics rely on trait cards, which you use to evolve your species with traits like fast, nesting, or scavenger, using these to tailor your strategy for the round. There are solo and multiplayer modes, with the digital version automating things like rules and setup so you can get into the game more quickly, with the tabletop version being well received, so it's mechanically sound, so as long as there are no game-breaking bugs, this should be great as well. An interesting looking horror game that I'm guessing spawned from YouTube videos is No Players Online, in which you find an abandoned first-person shooter on an old PC and decide to boot it up to play, where of course the lobby is empty, but something else seems wrong. There's also a 1990s style desktop interface to mess around with, complete with files, applications, including Minesweeper, as you gather clues from file directories to figure out the truth behind the mysterious game. The mix of exploration on the desktop and first-person movement in the fake game provides an interesting contrast, where one of the listed features is combining entire games together with the Soul Transfer application, so I'm very curious as to what this can be. You need to learn more about the developer and why they made the game, presented with this very unsettling vibe that has my attention, where the medium of video games is uniquely suited to tell this story and could be a sleeper hit. Something very different in terms of vibes is Outside the Blocks, a title which I would describe as being in the interactive toy category of games where you're free to tinker and meddle with it, but without scores, timers, or traditional gameplay elements. This is a sandbox-style creation game which allows you to build detailed dioramas using a modular block system in a relaxing environment. Place modules to construct buildings, then shape terrain, add props, set lighting and weather, and position animated characters to craft your miniature scenes in real time, with a photo mode as well to immortalize your creations. The editor looks to be very powerful and has an astonishing amount of detail, giving you full control over your creations to craft the scenes of your dreams, and looks very relaxing. There really are way too many roguelites, but one that looks kind of cool is PLAGUN The Plague Goes On, which is a high-intensity roguelite platformer shooter set in a kingdom collapsing under a plague of immortality. This has caused regenerating monsters to spawn, so it is your job to wield the PLAGUNs to take out these enemies. Engage in fast wave-based combat as you leap, shoot and avoid enemies, equipping cursed skull masks that drastically change stats and mechanics. Between runs, you gather corpses as meta currency to unlock new gear and passive upgrades, so each attempt builds your arsenal even as you fail, mixing auto shooter action with tight platforming. I love the visual style of this, since it reminds me of one of my favorite hidden gems in Hell is Other Demons, and does look like the complete package. Queue Up is a satirical take on competitive gaming where the core premise is absurdly simple yet loaded with commentary, where the next great esports is a coin flipper and the outcome is always 50-50. The game with, I quote, no gameplay of any kind is framed as a 4v4 multiplayer game, so think MOBAs and you get the idea, in which you pick from 8 heroes, each with unique skills and abilities, unlocking over 400 skills and collecting more than 200 items as you attempt to collect the most Q points and climb the ladder. For the most part, it looks like a clicker game where the numbers go up, but I don't know what effects the skills and abilities will have, since it's really supposed to just be a coin flip in every round, and is perhaps more meta commentary on the esports industry and where it's going, with a narrative about a dramatic battle between corporate interests and perhaps the future of the universe itself. That being said, it might be getting a little too cute to the extent that people don't understand the game, or maybe I'm just the dum-dum that doesn't follow esports close enough to get it, but either way, it looks like an interesting release for the week. A sweet-looking throwback side-scrolling RTS is Realms of Madness, reminding me of Flash games like the Epic War series but polished up for a new age. Build a medieval fantasy castle and manage your economy, constructing buildings to generate resources to recruit troops, research upgrades, and strengthen your arsenal. This feeds into the combat system, which takes place in 3 distinct layers beneath the sea, across the land, and high in the skies, where you need to ensure that you have sufficient troops and defenses in each of the above. Construct underwater habitats and summon strange aquatic creatures to sink enemy fleets on water, then you deploy soldiers, trolls, wizards, and siege engines on land to batter the enemy fortress, while also unleashing birds and other winged creatures in the air to rain havoc from above. Use defensive structures like walls, traps, and towers, using ability points to unlock powerful new skills to change the tide of battle, with the ability to conjure up powerful dragons in the late game, so what's not to love? Sanatorium, a mental asylum simulator, is a card-driven workplace simulation adventure set in 1923, where you assume the role of an unlicensed doctor operating inside the mysterious Castle Woods Sanatorium. The core gameplay revolves around diagnosing and treating patients whose files operate like layered card decks as you uncover symptoms, order tests, select treatments, and then face the consequences of your decisions. You have to contend with outdated psychiatry tools, moral ambiguity, and the constant threat of being exposed as an imposter while balancing compassion, cruelty, profit, and your own hidden motives. As you proceed through its 4-chapter campaign, you explore multiple branching paths and unlock several endings based on the choices you make and how you engage with the patients' lives. This might be inspired by Papers, Please, but with the card-based gameplay offering something different, almost straying into puzzle game territory, which is an interesting mix with the narrative focus. A high-octane first-person shooter with RPG elements is Second Son, where you're attempting to save the Empire from devastation, having an open-world structure where you explore a vast map dotted with intriguing landmarks, delve into procedurally generated dungeons, and loot gear while using powerful abilities. Sprint across terrain, dive into dynamic battles, and unleash special powers, tackling new threats and uncovering new opportunities as you explore. The procedurally generated dungeons and randomized placement of enemies ensures that each foray out in the world gives you something different, but does otherwise appear to be an RPG with constant progression as you level up and power up to get strong enough to complete your mission. The visuals look alright, a little bit too grey-brown for my liking, but still decent enough to be of interest. Taking disparate genres and jamming them together can have interesting results, with a prime example being Service with a Shotgun, having visual novel storytelling on one hand and a wave-based, almost arcade shooter kind of gameplay on the other, set during a zombie apocalypse. You step into the shoes of an overworked sole attendant at a decrepit roadside shop, trying to keep things running while undead hordes and deranged customers assault the shop. Alternate between talking to customers and first-person shooting, having to keep two things in mind so that A, you do not get eaten by zombies, and B, you don't piss off your customers. There will be upgrades for weapons and defenses as you manage your ammunition, health and defense being linear in the sense of having 5 chapters to go through and does look kind of unhinged. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, but let's go with Skopje 83, a sleek first-person shooter set in the titular city which is now ruined due to an unknown event, turning it into a chaotic battlefield crawling with mutant abominations. The comic book-inspired art style looks awesome as you explore the city, shoot hordes of enemies, scavenge loot, and drive your mobile base around as your central hub. Unfortunately for some of you, this has roguelite elements in that while the city is open world, missions and enemy placements are procedurally generated and each death resets large parts of the city, shuffling loot and enemy spawn locations, slowly acquire permanent blueprints and upgrades that carry across different lives, with upgrades to your mobile base as well, having an interesting mix of ideas and influences of the occult, retro-futuristic science and an alternate history version of the Balkans, and does look pretty cool. Strange Seed is a creature evolution action-adventure RPG where you begin life as a humble blob that fell from a strange tree and gradually evolve by consuming DNA from other creatures to unlock body parts, abilities, and new forms. You'll hunt, explore, and fight through a variety of biomes from forested areas, beaches, volcanoes, and even cities, while swapping limbs and features across 7 part slots so you can walk, fly, climb, or charge depending on your build. This system offers over 40 base creatures, resulting in supposedly 10 million possible permutations to experiment with, where you need to tailor your form to tackle both exploration challenges and tough boss fights. Of course, this has similarities to Spore from back in the day, an example of a game with an insane amount of ambition, but perhaps over-promised and under-delivered. But people do seem to have nostalgia for that, with this game focusing on a very specific part of that game, looking a little janky and weird, but could be interesting. Things are coming full circle since we have Syberia Remastered this week, a remaster of a point-and-click adventure game from 2002, which is very popular, being of a similar time to games like The Longest Journey, getting fancy new graphics and does look very pretty. You play as lawyer Kate Walker, exploring European landscapes to uncover the fate of an inventor and his automata, with classic point-and-click puzzle-solving gameplay. Search through richly detailed environments, interact with eccentric characters, use items and dialogue choices to solve puzzles and uncover a story of legacy, machines, and human ambition. The gameplay has been enhanced to let you explore rebuilt 3D locations with improvements like smoother controls and some rejigged puzzles that respect the original's spirit while feeling a little bit more modern. This is one of those classic well-regarded adventure games and looks like it has been given the love that the game deserves, with the original developer Microids being the publisher on this, and it's their baby, so I'm sure that care has been taken, where if this does well, I will not be surprised to see the later entries get the same treatment. A title with a stupid number of wishlists is The Last Caretaker, a first-person survival and crafting adventure game that looks very nice, set in the vast flooded world where you have to battle rogue machines, and every discovery and upgrade brings you closer to the rebirth of humanity. You play as the titular Last Caretaker, an autonomous sentinel tasked with securing humanity's future. Pilot a mobile platform across an open ocean, exploring sunken labs and broken harbors, scavenging for resources, crafting tools, weapons and ship upgrades, then engage in combat against machines and defense systems that remain active despite the collapse of civilization. Your objectives include restoring the Lazarus Complex, safeguarding human seed vaults, and ultimately launching humanity's hope into the stars via ancient rocket systems. This kind of gives me Subnautica vibes in being a narrative-focused, single-player survival crafting game with an intriguing world to explore, looking high potential and could be huge. I last talked about There Are No Orcs in my Gamescom Asia video, having managed to play one round of this RTS roguelite hybrid and thought it was decent, having similarities to The King is Watching, but where you're going on the offense and can command much larger armies, select and place buildings to ramp up your economy, then use these to build barracks and archery ranges to produce troops which then automatically advance on the enemy. You're pretty much focused on optimizing the layout of buildings since proximity matters, with huge armies clashing that always look fun, also having roguelite replayability and challenge as well. A cozy spot the difference puzzle game is Tiny Lands 2, having exquisitely detailed 3D miniature diorama worlds where you're rotating and comparing the different images on either side of the screen to identify what is different. There's a tremendous amount of detail in the dioramas and simply looks like a joy to examine, where on top of the differences needed to complete the level, there are also hidden jigsaw pieces, and collecting all of these results in a special surprise. There's a photo mode with stickers to customize your screenshots, with the game being a low stress, no timer and no penalty kind of experience. There is also local 2-player co-op support, a gentle hint system which does not tell you outright where the differences are, and also has 3 types of color blindness support, simply oozing cozy vibes and looks very pleasant. Japanese developer Asylum is doing interesting things, with Vivid World being of interest, a roguelite RPG which is the follow-up to Vivid Night, having you build out a party as you explore the underworld ruled by demons, taking them on and conquering strange dungeons. Heroes are crystallized into jewels here, and you recruit from dozens of unique characters, mixing and matching gem types to build your team, equip orbs that alter abilities, and dive into procedurally generated dungeons filled with bizarre enemies and bosses. This has classic party-based, turn-based JRPG combat, with the gems and orbs resulting in powerful synergies, with treasure and loot playing a part as well. As you gradually build out and strengthen your roster, you get more powerful for subsequent runs, having amazing art and designs which I absolutely love and will be for JRPG fans. This one's for indie game developers. The free indie game marketing resources are ready, so sign up via the link in the description below to get it in your mailbox. We also have the 1.0 release of Void Train, a first-person survival crafting shooter where you play as an engineer aboard a steam-powered void train hurtling through a mysterious interdimensional void. You explore floating islands, abandoned depots, and strange terrain while scavenging for resources, crafting structures, and upgrading both your train and your weapons. Materials collected can be used for upgrades and to research new technologies, transforming your basic trolley into a full train with multiple wagons, adding modules and stations, building workbenches, storage, and even minigame tables as you progress. Defend your train against enemy waves, board and raid hostile outposts, craft powerful weapons, and face off against aggressive enemies. It's classic survival crafting game stuff, but it's very well made here, with the void as a location being intriguing due to how the laws of physics work differently here, with floating islands and objects, as well as surreal, strange locations to explore. There's also co-op support, so you can play with friends, with the full launch adding the third and final chapter, rebalancing the entire game for smoother progression, adding automation systems, tweaking the combat, and various other improvements with plans for post-launch content as well. Anima Gate of Memories 1 and 2 Remaster is a compelling bundle of third-person action RPGs uniting the original title and its companion story into one enhanced package, fully remastered with some amazing visuals. Engage in real-time combat where you swing, dodge, and chain combos together while using the duel system to seamlessly switch between two protagonists, a legendary monster and a mysterious amnesiac girl, to create fluid attack sequences to take out your enemies. Explore a stylized fantasy world that reminds me of JRPGs but is related to the Anima world of tabletop RPGs, having branching narrative paths and an extensive skill tree upgrade system to get stronger over the course of the game. The improved visuals and rebalanced mechanics should make this more appealing to a modern audience, so whether you have played the original games or not, I'm sure that this will be of interest. Thrasher feels like a spiritual successor to Thumper, although interestingly, it credits only the original artist and composer, hinting that something may have shifted within the old team, but technicalities aside, it's a mesmerizing evolution of that same rhythmic intensity, described as a surreal rhythm action odyssey through sound and light. You guide a colossal space eel through an abstract cosmic landscape, twisting and thrashing in sync with an otherworldly soundtrack that pounds as hard as it dazzles. Each movement, from dodging barriers, passing through tunnels, or striking foes, builds towards a hypnotic audio-visual crescendo, looking trippy as hell and looks like a weird game if I ever saw one. However, the core rhythm gameplay action looks intense, and these alternative rhythm games like Thumper and this are interesting as compared to the traditional Guitar Hero or Rock Band style note highways, looking like pure sensory overload in the best way possible. Whiskerwood looks to continue Hooded Horse's streak as the undisputed heavyweight of indie strategy game publishing, this time teaming up with rail-grade developer Minakata Dynamics for a charming and intricate city-building game. You take command of a struggling mouse colony living under the oppressive rule of feline overlords, forced to expand across scattered islands to build an industrial civilization capable of producing enough tributes or face dire consequences for your population. Managing your colony means more than just resource gathering, as each mouse worker is a unique individual with traits that affect productivity, efficiency, and morale. You harvest timber, stone, and ore, then construct elaborate production chains to transform raw materials into advanced goods and luxury items for both your citizens and their demanding cat masters. The building systems go far beyond traditional city builders, letting you build vertically, tunnel through mountains, terraform landscapes, and even lay down complex piping systems to distribute heat and to power machinery. With over 40 distinct commodities and a full automation suite of conveyors, elevators, and more, makes this a city builder automation fan's dream, and as with most Hooded Horse published titles, I'm sure that this will be mechanically complex and satisfying to learn about and exploit. Unbeatable has been one of the most talked about rhythm games in years, ever since the release of its free standalone prologue, Unbeatable White Label, which remains one of the highest rated free games on Steam. Set in a striking anime-inspired world where music itself has been outlawed, you play as Beat, the pink-haired vocalist of a rebellious band defying a corrupt system through the power of sound. The game blends rhythm gameplay with narrative exploration as you chat with characters, explore the city, craft songs, and make story decisions, all tied thematically to resistance and self-expression. When the music kicks in, the game shifts into intense rhythm segments that uses only 2 buttons, yet still manages to feel fast, fluid, and incredibly challenging. Each track bursts with kinetic energy and stunning animations, turning every performance into a visual spectacle, with the rhythm mechanics even extending to areas of the game like batting baseballs, having 5 difficulty levels from beginner to unbeatable, so you can select and ramp up the challenge according to your preference. Looking absolutely stunning and is unbeatable for the week. Watch this video for more of the best indie games.